Before we begin, I invite you to let yourself sink gently into the comfort of your bed, feeling the quiet weight of your blankets surrounding you like a soft embrace, and noticing the way your breath flows in and out, slower now, deeper, like waves gently touching the shore of your mind. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, and no thoughts you need to hold on to. Only this moment, only this warmth, only this story, which waits for you just beyond the veil of sleep. So close your eyes if you haven't already, and imagine that you are floating in a place far away, where the sky is painted with the dusky colors of early twilight, and the wind carries the scent of water lilies and pine, where time slows down, and everything feels as if it is wrapped in velvet silence. Our story begins on a lake that few have seen, and fewer still remember, a perfect circle of still water nestled between moss-covered hills, where the stars seem to come out earlier than anywhere else, as if they, too, are drawn to the quiet magic of this place. No roads lead here, no carriages arrive, and no footsteps echo along paths, because the only way to reach the lake's heart is by boat, a very particular boat, carved in the shape of a graceful swan, with its wings curved protectively around the seats, and its head bowed in peaceful welcome, waiting always at the shore, with no need for rope or anchor, as if it simply knows when someone is ready to take the journey. You step inside, wrapping a warm wool cloak around your shoulders as the boat begins to drift forward, guided not by oars or sails, but by the quiet breath of the world, gliding effortlessly across the mirrored surface of the lake, leaving only the faintest ripples behind. The air is cool and clean, filled with the faint scent of mint leaves and wood smoke from some unseen hearth, and you hear the gentle creak of the boat's wooden frame mingling with the distant call of a water bird, its sound stretching across the lake like a thread spun from memory. As the mist thickens around you, soft and silver and slow, you notice the way it coils in gentle spirals above the water. Never harsh, never cold, but soft and living, like breath made visible, like the lake itself is dreaming. Then, out of the mist, something begins to form, a faint golden glow at first, then the curved outlines of rooftops and towers, until finally the village reveals itself floating quietly at the lake's center, as if it has always been there, waiting for night to fall. This village is like no other, built upon wooden stilts and walkways that rise just above the waterline, with cottages that lean gently against one another, their rooftops round and moss-touched, their walls painted in faded shades of blue and rose and gray, as if the entire place has been colored by candlelight. Between the cottages hang lanterns of glass red, gold, soft green, slying slightly in the breeze, casting slow-moving reflections on the dark surface below. And from somewhere nearby comes the delicate chime of glass wind bells, singing quietly with each motion of the air. At the very center of the village stands the tallest structure, a slender tower with a chimney that breathes out ribbons of pale smoke into the deepening twilight. And below it, nestled beneath flowering vines, is the home of the Glassblower, the quiet heart of this floating village. You step from the boat onto a worn dock that rocks gently beneath your feet, its planks old but lovingly cared for, warm from the sun's memory, and polished smooth by generations of bare souls. And as you walk slowly forward, the hush of the village wraps around you like a lullaby. You pass a small child with hair like straw and an apron full of herbs and feathers, who nods at you with sleepy kindness before disappearing behind a curtain of hanging beads. And soon after, you hear a soft voice, low and inviting, calling from the open doorway of the glassblower's home. Inside, the space is warm and dim, lit only by the glow of a fire within a rounded stone furnace and the scattered flicker of lanterns made from curved panes of blue and gold glass, their light dancing along shelves filled with delicate creations bowls as fine as flower petals, vials shaped like birds in flight, goblets so thin they seem made from mist. The glassblower is there beside the fire, her long silver braid resting over one shoulder, her hands strong but gentle, covered in the golden dust of sand and ash, and her eyes kind and full of stories meet yours with a look that says, "Yes, you've come at the right time." She gestures for you to sit beside her on a cushion by the warm hearth, and as you settle in, you feel the quiet thrum of the furnace beside you, steady and alive, like a heartbeat made of heat and memory. She picks up a long iron pipe, and at its tip glows a tiny bead of molten glass, orange and white and pulsing like a drop of sunlight caught in a tear. And you watch as she lifts it slowly to her lips and exhales with care, not a rush of air, but a breath as soft as a wish. The glass expands gently, blooming outward in a perfect, hollow sphere, humming faintly as it cools. And yes, you hear it, that barely there sound, like a songbird sleeping inside the globe, or the faint whisper of stars singing to one another across a great distance. She turns the pipe slowly, shaping the glowing globe into a spiral, then a tulip, then something in between, dipping it into colored powders made from ground stone and silver dust, creating layers that seem to shimmer from within like frozen dreams. "This one," she says, almost to herself, "was meant to sing." You listen, and the sound grows clearer now, a pure, single note that hangs in the air like a bell heard from very far away, soft enough not to wake, but strong enough to hold in the heart. She continues her work, breath by breath, piece by piece, and as you sit watching the slow magic of creation, she tells you in quiet tones how her ancestors came from the island of Murano long ago, when glassblowers were sworn to secrecy, their techniques guarded as closely as royal treasures. She tells you how the glassmakers of Murano believed their craft held something sacred, how they learned to make mirrors before mirrors existed, how they discovered colors by accident and intention, and how every breath they blew into the molten glass became a part of the final shape, as if each object remembered the soul that made it. You nod softly, feeling the story wrap around you like a blanket, each word warm and old and careful, and you close your eyes for a moment, just to hear the fire crackle, the glass hum, and the breath of the glassblower filling the room with rhythm and purpose. Somewhere outside, a swan cries gently, its wings brushing the water, and the wind carries the scent of sweet fennel and sea salt across the village, touching your cheeks like a lullaby. The lanterns outside sway gently in time, and the water beneath the village reflects their light like tiny stars dancing just below the surface. Never still, always dreaming. You feel your body growing heavier, now your breaths slower, your thoughts quieter, and as you sit by the hearth, listening to the story of the glassblower and the music of the molten glass, something in you begins to settle like sand sinking through still water. You are safe here. You are home. You are almost asleep. The fire has not gone out, even as the stars above the floating village grow brighter and more numerous. even as the lanterns sway slower on their strings and the breeze grows cooler and more fragrant with night. The fire within the glassblower's hearth continues to hum, not with urgency, but with the deep and steady patience of something ancient and content. The room glows with a gentle orange hue, now everything cast in soft flickers, and even the shelves seem to lean forward toward the light, as though the glass itself has a memory of flame and leans toward what once gave it life. You are still seated beside the glassblower, your legs tucked beneath, you and your hands resting in your lap, warm now heavy in the soft stillness of the room, and your breath has synced itself quietly, unconsciously with the rhythm of hers, the inhale before each shaping the exhale that brings new life into glowing glass. She turns toward you, her hands resting now on her knees, her face lit softly by the orange firelight, her eyes reflecting just the smallest traces of gold and violet, and when she speaks, her voice is quieter than before, as if the night itself has asked her to whisper. You know, she says, glass remembers. And when you look at her with sleepy curiosity, she smiles gently and nods, adding, not in the way that people do, not in thoughts or words, but in the way sunlight remembers where it's been, or the way your hands remember how to braid, or stir, or hold something precious. She stands slowly, her body moving with the grace of someone who has done this dance 1,000 times, and crosses to a shelf lined with old glass, some dusty, some chipped, some as clear as the day they were made on. She lifts a small bottle into the light one shaped like a curled shell, with swirls of pink and green caught in its body, like flower petals pressed in time. This one, she says, almost to herself, was the first I made in this village. She holds it out to you, and when you take it into your hands, you feel its coolness, its weight, its softness. Not sharp or hard as you expected, but smooth and oddly comforting, like holding a small piece of water that has been stilled and preserved. Inside the bottle is a faint shimmer of blue dust, so fine it seems to float even within the glass. Memory sand, she says, watching you from the lake's edge where the reeds grow tallest. It said the wind there remembers every word that's ever been whispered near the water. You imagine the lake now, not by day but by moonlight, its edges soft and silver, and the tall reeds swaying like flimpy sentries, each one brushing against the wind like fingers on a harp string. And yes, you can almost believe that they hold secrets that they keep. The glassblower walks back to the hearth and lifts a new pipe from a stand, this one slightly curved, its tip already warmed by the coals. And again she gathers molten glass from the fire, this time more gently, more slowly, as though sculpting, not with heat, but with thought. She breathes into it with care, turning it as she speaks. Murano glassmakers used to believe that every bubble of breath carried something of the soul, she says softly. That when you blew into fire, it wasn't just air, it was memory, intention, hope. The sphere grows once again at the tip of her pipe, and this one she shapes into something different. Tear a drop, a soft spiral that curves back upon itself, and you notice she added something to the mix this time. A fine powder that glows faintly blue within the flame, shimmering as the shape cools and stills. Moon ash, she says, smiling faintly at your surprise. Not from the moon itself, of course, but from driftwood burned during the moon's highest point in the sky. The villagers gather it in silence and bring it to me with reverence. It helps the glass glow in the dark, but more than that, it helps dreams find their way back to the body. You close your eyes for a moment, picturing the Sina silent gathering on the far side of the lake, where villagers in white cloaks burn logs of willow and alder beneath the full moon, their faces calm, their voices still. And then the ash is collected in ceramic bowls, cooled in dew, and delivered before sunrise to the glassblower's door. And somehow you feel the truth of it in your chest. Not the truth of science, but the truth of feeling. The kind that lives in stories and old songs and the deep hush before sleep. The glassblower places the finished piece on a wooden cradle, letting it cool, and moves once more to the shelves, this time reaching higher, to a covered jar sealed with wax and twine. She breaks the seal gently and lifts the lid, releasing a scent that makes your breath slow, even more a blend of rosewood, lavender, and something you can't quite name. Something soft and ancient and blue. She sets the jar on the table beside you and speaks again, slower now, as if her words are meant to drift across the surface of your dreams. Glassblowing isn't only about shaping, she says. It's also about remembering what can't be seen, what was felt, what was hoped for, what was lost. She dips her fingers into the jar and removes a pinch of the mixture, scattering it into the hearth's flame. And the fire changes color slightly, shifting from orange to violet, then to silver, like the light beneath a glacier or the shimmer of a dream half remembered. And as the flames dance, you hear something in the room change to, not a sound exactly, but a presence, a feeling, a hush that makes everything inside you soften, your mind growing quieter, your body heavier, as though your thoughts have curled themselves up like kittens beside the fire and fallen asleep without you noticing. The glassblower looks at you, her face now lit with that strange and lovely silver glow, and she whispers, "There's a kind of magic in slowing down, you know? In doing one thing with care, in letting the world be quiet long enough to hear itself." You nod, barely able to keep your eyes open now, the rhythm of her voice and the glow of the fire, weaving together into something softer than sleep, warmer than words, and you let your head rest against a cushion nearby as your breath grows deeper still. The wind outside has slowed to a whisper, and the chimes hanging from the eaves sing only once every few moments. A lullaby that seems to come from somewhere deep beneath the village, from the water itself, or the stars reflected in it. The glassblower adds one more log to the fire, settles herself back onto her cushion, and begins to polish one of the cooling goblets with a cloth so soft it seems made from shadow. You watch her hands move, and you let the movement carry you, not just into relaxation, but into a memory not your own. The memory of breath shaping fire, the memory of fire shaping silence, the memory of silence shaping sleep. And now, sleep is near, sleep is gentle, sleep is glass, holding only what you need and letting all else drift away. The fire is quieter now. It hasn't gone out now. It still glows softly in the hearth beside Ubo. It's smaller, more content, more like the gentle embers at the end of a lullaby than the tall flame of a forge. It hums and sighs and breathes its warm breath across the room like an old friend tucking you in beneath a woolen sky. You are still nestled on the cushion, your body growing heavier with each passing moment. And the flickering golden light still brushes the shelves above you, where rows of glass bowls and bottles sleep beneath layers of dust and dream. Outside, the village has quieted, too. The wind chimes are still, the lanterns sway barely at all, and only the occasional creak of a wooden walkway or the soft plink of water beneath the stilts reminds you that the world is still turning still moving, even when everything feels so perfectly at peace. The glassblower is humming now, not a song with words or melody, but something older, just breath shaped into sound, sound shaped into warmth, warmth shaped into command. The sound drifts over you like fog on the lake, thick and light at once. She finishes her polishing, sets the goblet aside, and turns once more to you with that same quiet smile, the one that doesn't ask anything of you, the one that welcomes without needing a reason. "I think," she says softly, her voice barely louder than the flame, "it's time you saw the lake from underneath." You blink slowly, unsure what she means, your mind swaying gently between waking and dream, between curiosity and the deep pull of rest. But she stands slowly and extends her hand, and you take it, your legs a little slow to follow, your body so relaxed it feels like moving through honeyed air. She leads you outside, back into the night air. And the stars are bright now, so bright they seem to shimmer beneath your feet, their reflections painting the water with soft silver brushstrokes that move even when you don't. The village is nearly silent. Curtains are drawn, lights dimmed. Only the lake speaks now, and it says, "Follow." You walk behind her down a narrow wooden walkway that leads to the edge of the village, to a platform draped in silver netting and strands of glass beads that catch the starlight like dew on spider silk. There, moored silently in the dark, is a small round boat, made entirely of woven branches and waxed canvas, shaped like a bowl or a moon or a cradle meant to hold the weight of dreams. She helps you in, then steps in herself, and with a soft push from her foot, the boat begins to drift. No sails, no paddles, just motion, like the swan boat before, as if the lake is guiding you again. But this time, the lake is not above you. It is all around, and slowly, softly, beneath, because now you see. The bottom of the boat begins to glow, a faint circle of light, and as it brightens, the water beneath it grows clear. You lean over the edge, carefully, sleepily, and see not mud, not rocks, but light, pale, glowing strands of what looks like seaweed rise toward you, not green, but white, luminescent, like threads of moonlight caught in water. Tiny fish dart between them, their scales flashing like specks of blown glass, and deep beneath that, even deeper, you glimpse something else. Buildings, archways, columns, windows, a second village, or the memory of one. The glassblower's voice is so quiet now, it feels like it's speaking inside your chest, rather than through your ears. There was a village here once, long before the one that floats. A village made of stone and wood, of vines and carved doors, before the water rose, before the lake swallowed the land. You watch the ghost village below, you shift and shimmer, as if it's not quite there, not quite gone, not quite memory, not quite dream. And when it did, she continues, the people moved to the surface, built homes on stilts, glass in lanterns, songs in their sails. But they say the old village still remembers, still breathes, still hums beneath the surface. She takes a small vial from the pocket of her shawl round, like a pearland, uncorks it with a sigh. A single bead of golden oil drops into the water, and as it touches the surface, the glowing strands beneath you pulse, and the buildings below brighten just a little, just for a moment before dimming again, as though they recognized something, as though they sighed in their sleep. You are quiet now, you are full of stillness, and the lake is full of you. The boat drifts slowly in a wide circle, letting you take in more of what lies belorched bridges made of coral-colored stone, courtyards where eels dance like ribbons, even a half-collapsed tower whose bell still sways with the currents, chiming not with sound, but with light. The water doesn't feel cold, not from here, not from above it, feels like memory, like softness, like something that has waited a very long time for someone to look down and remember. You lean back in the boat, and the glassblower does too. Both of you facing the stars now, your bodies cradled by the round belly of the boat, your thoughts drifting like pollen in the wind. The stars blink slowly above, reflected in the water below, and for a moment it's impossible to tell which way is up and which way is down. And maybe that's the point. Maybe here, in this quiet place, in this village between sky and sleep, there is no up, no down, no past, no future. Only this breath, this moment, this light. She turns her head just slightly toward you, her voice barely more than a thought. When I was a girl, she says, I used to think the stars above and the village below were the same, both too far to touch, both made of glass, both full of stories. And then she smiles, softly, slowly. But then I learned something. You don't always have to touch something to keep it close. You close your eyes, and you feel it now, not the lake, not the boat, not even your body, but the story itself, curling around you, tucking itself beneath your arms and behind your knees and under your cheek like a second blanket, softer than wool, warmer than breath. You are no longer thinking of where you are or where you'll go. You are only thinking of the soft lap of water, the deep hush of stars, the memory of light beneath the lake, and the sound of molten glass humming just beneath the surface of silence. Sleep is close now, so close you can hear it breathing, so close it has already begun. The boat had carried you gently back to the edge of the floating village, rocking side to side with the soft rhythm of the lake, the way a cradle rocks when the night is quiet and the wind moves only to kiss the leaves. You hadn't noticed the movement, not fully, not with your eyes so heavy and your thoughts swaying like long reeds in slow-moving water, but at some point you felt the touch of wood beneath your feet again, the steady stillness of the dock beneath the sway, and you followed the glassblower back up the narrow path toward the center of the village. The air was cooler now, not cold, never cold in this place, but touched with that faint sweetness that sometimes comes before dawn, the kind that carries hints of lavender and whetstone and something old, something folded in the mist. The lanterns were still lit, though dimmer than before, as if they too were growing tired, their glow softening into a deeper gold, and the glass wind chimes no longer sang with every breeze, but only every now and then quiet, single notes like sleepy questions asked in a dream. You returned to the workshop, not with urgency, not with purpose, but with a kind of slow trust, the kind of trust that settles into your bones, when you know nothing is expected of you except to listen, to breathe, and to simply be. Inside, the fire had faded to embers, low and content, crackling softly, like someone whispering an old lullaby to the coals, and the shadows on the shelves had grown longer, curving around the glass pieces in ways that made them seem like they were leaning into the dark rather than hiding from it. The glassblower didn't relight the furnace. She didn't reach for tools or pipes or powders. She simply sat beside the hearth, her hands folded in her lap, and invited you to sit beside her with a nod so gentle you almost didn't tease it, but your body understood before your mind did. You sat down on the cushion, And she looked at you with that quiet gaze of hers, the one that made you feel as if you had always belonged here. Not just tonight, but in some long-forgotten way. Always. "There's something I haven't shown you yet," she said after a long pause, her voice like the final light of a lantern before it dims. "Not because I didn't want to, but because you had to come here slowly, the way glass cools, the way sleep finds the heart." You nodded, barely, your limbs so soft now, so still. You were drifting already, even as she reached behind the hearth and pulled something from a small drawer tucked into the base of the stone, something wrapped in fabric the color of fog, tied with a simple ribbon of twine. She placed it gently between you both and untied the ribbon with hands that moved like pages turning in an old book. And when the cloth unfolded, you saw what she had kept hidden. A glass globe, perfectly round, no larger than a plum, so clear it caught and bent the firelight around it, like it was holding water, like it was holding air. But inside the globe was not empty space. Inside the globe floated stars, not burning, not bright, not sharp, but faint glimmers of silver and pearl and ice blue. Suspended in the center like a constellation trapped mid-dream, gently rotating, never touching the inside of the glass, never still. Your breath caught softly in your chest. The glassblower didn't speak right away. She let the silence do its work first, the way all true things begin. Then, finally, she looked at you and said, "This is breathlight." And when you looked at her with slow curiosity, too tired to ask, too rested to worry, she smiled gently and explained, "Breathlight is what happens when you blow into glass, not with just air, but with memory. When you shape something, not with your hands, but with something deeper, a dream, a promise, a goodbye. This one," she glanced down at the globe, "was my mother's. And that," she pointed to a single silver light floating near the top, "was her last wish, caught in her final breath." You stared at the globe now, differently, not with eyes that wanted to understand, but with something softer than understanding, something like reverence, something like sleep. "She told me," the glassblower continued, "that every breath we've ever taken is still somewhere in the sky, in the wind, in the lungs of trees. But if we shape it with care, if we breathe it into something sacred, can stay, and it can glow." You didn't speak, you couldn't, but the feeling in your chest grew heavy and light all at once, as if some part of you remembered something you didn't know you'd forgotten. A promise you made as a child. A song your grandmother hummed once while brushing your hair. A dream you had beneath a quilt one winter when the power went out and the only light came from candles. It all stirred, gently, like those stars inside the globe, turning without reason, shining without sound. The glassblower reached out, lifted the globe in her hands, and held it toward you. "Breathe into it," she said. Not a command, not even a request, just an invitation, so soft, so full of trust, it felt like an embrace. And so, without fear, without thought, you brought your lips to the edge of the hollow silver pipe that curled from its base, and you exhaled, slowly, softly, with all the tired wonder in your chest, with all the dreams still folded beneath your ribs. And inside the globe, a single new light appeared, small, dim at first, then brighter, paler, spinning, joining the others. You didn't feel proud, or startled, or even surprised. You just felt whole. The glassblower cradled the globe in both hands now, as though holding something fragile and eternal, and placed it carefully back into the cloth, tying it once again with the ribbon of twine. "You'll forget most of this," she whispered, "not because it isn't real, but because it's meant to live in a deeper place, a part of you that only comes awake when the world is very quiet. And as she rose and walked to the shelf, placing the globe beside others, all wrapped in fog-colored cloth, each holding their own constellation, you felt yourself fading, not like something vanishing, but like something sinking into softness, into the breath between stars. The morning has not yet come, but the night has grown thinner. Not gone, not fading, just softer now, like the breath between two verses of a lullaby. Inside the glassblower's workshop, the embers in the hearth glow low and amber, casting long shadows on the walls that sway ever so slightly with the rhythm of your breath. And everything feels quieter now, not because the world has stilled, but because you have your mind a smooth surface, your body resting like a leaf that has just landed on water. The glassblower hasn't spoken in some time. She sits beside you again, her hands folded over her knees, her eyes gazing toward the shelves that hold dozens of fog-wrapped globes, each tied with soft twine, each filled with light that never flickers, only floats. You don't need to speak, either. Silence here is never empty, it is full of warmth and breath and space to be. And so you stay quiet, together, held by the hush. After a while, she reaches for something low on a shelf, a box, wooden, and carved with small, swirling shapes, the patterns so delicate they look like wind frozen into wood. She opens the lid slowly. Inside are tools not used for shaping glass, but for etching it, tiny blades, fine-tipped styluses, powders made from charcoal and pearl dust, brushes made of feathers and horsehair, and things softer still. She lifts a piece of clear, untouched glass from beside the hearth, a large disc, no bigger than a dinner plate, perfectly round and impossibly thin, and places it between you. She does not speak at first, but her hands move with quiet reverence, and you watch as she dips the smallest brush into the pearl dust and sweeps it gently across the surface, creating no visible image, only preparing, blessing the surface, welcoming what's to come. Then she begins to etch, soft, slow movements, each motion smooth as water, each pause like a breath. At first you don't know what she's drawing, but then, with the tilt of the glass, with the shifting light of the coals, you begin to see the faint outline of a boat round, like the one you floated in, its bottom glowing faintly, its sides catching reflected stars. She adds the village next, rooftops resting on stilts, chimneys curled in smoke, lanterns drifting like fireflies between buildings, and then, beneath the village, she etches the reflection, the sunken village below, the lakeweed glowing like silver thread, the domed tower you remember from the dream you had just before you returned. Everything you saw, everything you felt, everything you were while resting in that moon-shaped boat, you realize she is not only drawing what happened, she is drawing your dream. She is giving it shape and keeping it from slipping away. "We believe here," she says at last, her voice even softer than before, "that every dream has a shape, not always one that eyes can see, but a shape nonetheless." Her hand pauses, hovering over the glass. "And when we find its shape, when we give it a home in something delicate and real, it becomes part of the world." She sets the tool down gently. The etched glass glows faintly now because of firelight, but because the story within it is alive, still humming, still drifting. You stare at it, not to memorize it, not to hold on to it, but simply to say goodbye. The glassblower reaches into the same carved box and removes a strip of silk, wraps the etched plate in it, and hands it to you without a word. You hold it in your lap, and though your hands are still and your body deeply relaxed, you feel that something inside you has settled more completely than ever before. You are no longer just someone visiting the village. You are part of its memory now. You are part of its breath. The glassblower rises slowly, and you follow. You step outside together, and though the sky is still dark, it is the dark before dawn. The lanterns are nearly out. The mist that once curled thick above the lake is thinning, now beginning to stretch and drift toward the hills, revealing just the faint outlines of distant pine trees and the very first hints of blue beyond the black sky. At the dock, the swan boat waits for you again. It has no ropes. It needs no summons. It is simply there. The glassblower places one hand gently on your shoulder, not to guide you, but to thank you, and for a moment, you feel that the warmth in her hand is not just hers, but the warmth of the fire, the breath, the lake, the story. She doesn't say goodbye, because no one ever really leaves this place. You step into the boat and sit down, the silk-wrapped glass held gently against your chest, and the boat moves, silently, effortlessly, gliding across the still lake that now holds the blush of the coming sun. You watch the village grow smaller behind you, the rooftops dim in the morning light, the glass bells silent now, and above you the sky stretches wide and pale, a canvas ready for new dreams to be painted upon. But you are not fully awake, not yet, not quite. You are drifting, not across water now, but through the last veil of sleep. And as the swan boat carries you to a place between memory and morning, you feel the story settling behind your eyes like mist in a valley, like stars that have chosen to rest for a little while longer. You are warm, you are whole, you are held, and now sleep can take you completely, because the breath of glass and flame and light and lake still sings inside you forever.